How important is self mastery to your success in business and your success in life? The facts are showing that we have millions of people across the world who navigate life without having a true sense of self, without having a true sense of purpose, and without having a true sense of direction. And if this is your case, it means that you are no way close to self mastery. Why? The facts are showing that people can never rise and grow beyond their sense of self. So, where you are right now in your life is a reflection of that sense of self. Today, what we will be doing is giving you a number of nuggets, and we will do some deep dive into what mastering your sense of self truly represents. So, we will give you 5 habits that you want to learn, apply, and master when you want to put yourself in that position of strength to master your sense of self. So, I want to encourage you to call a friend, tell a friend that we're on, and this topic is relevant to business, it's relevant to life. Because if you have a small sense of self, a negative sense of self, it's going to reflect in how you manage your business ideology. If you have a small sense of self, a negative sense of self, it's going to reflect your outcome in life. So, dear, what I'm about to say, what we're about to say, can be transformational for your life, for now and generations to come. Today, to support me in this conversation, I have two dynamic personality. And if you're following the program, you will be familiar with these two personality. If not, I want to now introduce Shavani Sinarayan. Shavani Sinarayan, she is a project management specialist. She is also a lecturer, and she's a business owner, serial business owner. Welcome, Shavana. Great to have you here today.
Thank you so much.
Welcome. I also have Peter Goscott, and Peter Goscott, he is a theologist by profession, and one of his key focus is largely focused on the Human Growth Initiative. So he has developed the Legacy Chronicle Human Growth Program. And the focus is all about fostering human resource development. Today's topic is largely based on that concept also. So, Peter, I want to welcome you here today. How are you, my friend?
Doing great here.
Awesome. I'm glad to hear that. I want to pause us a little bit to acknowledge the thousands of persons who from across the world who take the time to write into this platform. Today we are reaching over 50 countries, and I want to thank the over 30,000 persons who have subscribed to this platform. I want to thank my team who is working behind the scene. I want to thank my son, my daughter, who are instrumental also in producing the content and marketing the platform to help the visibility to grow. I also want to encourage those who have not yet subscribed to the program to kindly do so. We have seen that over 70% of those persons who are viewing the program, you have not yet subscribed to the program. All right. And we want to encourage you to do subscribe so you will be the first to get these programs that we bring into you on a regular basis. And you will also be helping us to push the algorithm out. Again, when you subscribe, I promise you that we will be bringing you better and better programs every time we present ourselves. A lot of work is being done to ensure that we can furnish you, the listening audience, the viewing audience, with essential information that can significantly up level your business and up level your life. Today's program comes to you with the kind compliments of Global Capital Inc. and the bestseller portal. So, what I want to do just before we get started with today's program, I want to encourage you to go to one of our websites. I want to encourage you to go to the bestseller portal website, bestsellerportal.org. And I want to ask you to peruse some of the programs that we are offering. You have programs like One Degree to Success. One Degree to Success is a beautiful program. It shows you the fastest way to cash flow and so much more. So I want you to encourage you to go to the website, take some time and study what we are doing there. The next program that you will see on the front page is Business Success Blueprint. Now, if you want to be successful in business, why not have that blueprint? We have designed this program because we see so many business startups every year and they fail. They doesn't survive to reach a 10 years life cycle. And we have studied the reasons why. In this program, you will learn all of that. We have the GIP initiative, which is the Global Influencers Partners Program. Now, if you're in business and you're not thinking about becoming an influencer or having influence on your site, surrounding yourself with influencer, you have a major gap in business potential to cash flow. With influencers on your site, your business can go further, faster, and significantly optimize its cash flowing potential. The next program that you will get here is what we call the Cash Flow Incubator. This program is all about showing you hacks and strategies to optimize your business potential to cash flow. This is not just for business, but it's for the average person who wants to achieve more financially. Last but not least, that I'm going to talk about today in relation to our sponsors is the High Net Worth Investors Guide. This is an excellent program because if you want to be a high net worth investor, you have to be prepared for what you're about to get into. This program will teach you about the law of preparation. Under the law of preparation, you will learn things about the art and science of success. You will learn things about evidence based marketing, evidence based leadership, and evidence based management, just to name a few. So, if you're pursuing wealth, what evidence do you have that you will attain it as you navigate your pathway? This program really gets you settling on evidence before taking action. Evidence, which allows you now to better position yourself to take informed action. So that's enough on our sponsors. And again, I want to reach out back to my team and say today is going to be an exciting day. They say, thank God it's Friday because everybody's getting ready to, spend time with the family and their loved ones at weekends. But very often, when you're the guy behind the driving wheel, you don't have the luxury of doing that. But these days, I'm trying to force myself to, really carve out that significant time for family. How is it for you guys?
Well, every day is Monday for me.
Well, every day for me is a lime, so I good. I working and liming at the same time, so
All
I good.
right.
Yeah. Yeah, I understand why because but you see how Shivani smiles all the time. Shivani has deep pockets, so every day could afford to be alive.
Work and lime at the same time. No, no, it's not
Okay,
because of deep pockets, Gary. It's because what it is. I'll tell you why just now. Yeah.
All right. The
all right, no
suspense.
problem. Uh,
I said the suspense lingers.
Yes,
that's
yes, yes,
it.
yes, yes.
Okay. Well, I waited as we go navigate to this program. I waited to hear the why.
Mhm.
All right. I want to give the first habit. Today we're looking at 5 habits to master. Wow, I have the wrong topic of is 5 habits to self mastery, 5 habits to self mastery. And I do believe that this is a pretty interesting topic and taking into consideration how important self mastery is. When you appoint your HR specialist, self mastery is important. When you appoint your public relation manager, self mastery is important. um, as a leader of yourself and the leader of your family, self mastery is so important. So, this topic has so many areas that it can be viewed from. I have written about 2 books on this topic many years ago. And I'm going to just try to reflect on some of what we would have talked about, looking at it mainly from a layman perspective. Now, the first habit that I want to look at is habit one is invest in your sense of self. But what exactly does this mean? Invest in your sense of self. Very often, as speakers, as leaders, as academic, as people in the world, we speak, and sometimes we believe the average person understand or have a clear mental picture of what we're saying. So I know for a fact that when I say invest in your sense of self, many persons may not fully understand that, or they may have different interpretation. What I'm going to give is our definition of what this means. Now, the ability to invest in your sense of self should represent three things, and I trust that you're taking notes on this. One, it's about investing in nurturing a strong sense of self. It's about knowing yourself. One of the first things that you want to do is to invest in nurturing a strong sense of self. If you want to master yourself for business and for life, it is important to invest in nurturing a strong sense of self. So that's step one. I'm going to go further into this just now. The second thing that you want to focus on, concept that you want to focus on, is your sense of purpose. As you focus on nurturing a strong sense of self, you also simultaneously want to focus on nurturing a strong sense of purpose. Now, what is purpose? All of this could be abstract and, expressions, but I promise you before I end here today, you will have a clear understanding of what I'm talking about, because this topic is relevant to you in business, is relevant to the average person in life. If you're not focusing on self-mastery, and there is gap in production outcome, there's gap in leadership results, there's gap in personal development. The third concept that I want us to look at is nurturing a strong sense of direction. These three things must be combined: a strong sense of self, a strong sense of purpose, and a strong sense of direction. Let me expand on this just a little bit more. Very often, I believe the time to start focusing on nurturing that strong sense of self is too late. You're on the treadmill and you have so much of distractions that are in front of you that you cannot focus enough on nurturing and mastering your sense of self. When this happened, you hurt yourself, you hurt your spouse, you hurt your loved ones. Society is not getting the best of you. The world is deprived of a person who can self-actualize. The world is deprived of a self-actualized individual. Because of the facts that I'm saying here, I do believe that the effort to help the individual to have a strong sense of self should start very early. And here is where parental socialization comes into play. Can you imagine that you have mom and dad? They have the blueprint, they have the manual, they have the book that is really helping them to help you to master who you are. Parental socialization. The sad reality is that in today's world, we don't have that book is not common. That book is not common. So we have millions of people, billions of people who are deprived of the parent being in the position of strength to provide this type of parental socialization that can help them to master self. Because very often when you get too old, you're not focusing on mastering self. You're on the treadmill. You have a spouse, you have kids, and your focus now is to get food on the table. So you become a back burner. And when you become a back burner, insignificant, everything in front of you also is compromised. So all these issues that we're talking about is because there are things that we are studying. We have built thesis around this for many years, and we now want to make it available to the public. The next stage of socialization on helping the individual to master the sense of self can come from what we call institutional socialization. Now, institution is very broad. It could be school, it could be youth club, it could be, you know, academic institution, it could be work organization, institutional socialization. Can you just think about that? You have parental socialization helping the individual to recognize their potential to achieve greatness. Now you have the individual goes into the institution and the institution accommodates that. How much further do you think the institution can go? And how much further do you think society as a whole can go when you have the collective working together to make great things happen for the individual and the collective? Is it just wishful thinking? I think it's possible. I will continue to embark on wishful thinking as a different way of thinking, but I think it's a necessary way of thinking. I do believe that when we get parental socialization is being played out in this way, and we have institutional socialization that is being played out in this way, the individual is more closer to the concept that we call self-actualization, because you have parental support and you have institutional support that are working together to create this kind of environment. And I do believe it's necessary. All right, so I've talked here largely about nurturing a strong sense of self. I still have to look at purpose and direction. I wouldn't do that now. I'll come back to look at that. But I want to say something just before I pass over to Shivani. I could recall many years ago, I sat with a dean of a university, and I like his style because he was honest from the get-go. And one of the things that he said to me, he said that, Gary, are you aware that the context in which you're teaching is not the context in which academics is rolled out? And you will get academic resistance. So to me, I could not have really buy into what he's saying, but he was being honest. It's different. And, but it was true. Academics are not really trained, and we all went through that. We all had different levels of schooling and education. We were not really taught about self-actualization. If even we were taught about it, we were only given a small dose of information. It's not it's not an essential part of the curriculum to focus on mastering oneself. So he said to me that you will get some pushback. And this is many years ago. And I'm quite certain that today we will still get some of those pushback. But I think it's a pushback that I'm prepared to fight for, because as a humanitarian, I do believe that we have a responsibility to each other to be our brother's keepers. I do see tremendous benefits when we can live from purpose and ensure that we are laying the foundation to make life easier, to make life better for the collective. So that's just a little bit that I want to share on some of my experience in terms of rolling out these content of information. In my view, I thought it was, about uplifting humanity. But then he helped me to see another perspective where people may see this as a threat to what they know. It's different to what they know, and they may want to push back on that. So I'm going to open up now to Shivani. Shivani, I know you're a project management specialist. In your experience as you work the various projects, the project has to be executed on or implemented by human resources. From your experience, how the individual sense of self, the individual ability to master self, how does that plays into the project implementation and the project outcome? Shabani.
Thanks, Gary. A great
Well,
question, right? That really making me think a lot. So in project management or whatever area that we are in, we will say you need to be a subject matter expert. You need to have expert knowledge in something. Having expert knowledge in your particular field, does that make you now a master, and understand self mastery? Good. So that's a question that I'm asking, and asking myself as well. We are trained to become subject matter experts. If you look at any curriculum, if you look at any training, you have different stages. And the last stage is really expert. You are training the individual to become an expert in something, and you will have different ways to do it. So, what really is an expert? Is an expert now a master at accomplishing what you have to do? Now, this is one of the biggest challenges a lot of persons will be facing when you have a project to run, which is things are not going your way. Your plan is out of whack, as we say. It's all over the place. And how do you really do or execute workarounds to get back? And if you don't do that, then what happens is that your project end up failing. And a lot of times that is what happens, right? So you are trained probably as an engineer, you are trained as an architect, you are trained as your particular expert, as an expert in your field, or safety, what have you. But then things have not gone your way in your project. And I mean, there are so many different enterprise environmental factors outside, we call it culture, that will impact your original plan. So now we are seeing what really makes the person a master at something is your ability to become more intuitive. That if something goes wrong, what do you do? How do you handle it? So for me, this is a challenge. You are training people to become experts, but no longer, and Peter will I'm sure chime in this as well. No longer is it like that. You can't train somebody only to be an expert, and then when things don't go right, because things not going right at all in the world, it's what do you do? And I've seen people they become anxious. They don't know what to do. They really don't know what to do, and then the blame culture comes in. So because you did not understand how to self master, as we see, which is what to do in situations that you were not trained for, or there was not an the plan is no longer working. The plan is no longer working that you have. You start to blame people. You start to say it's Gary's fault, and you don't know what is the workaround. You just don't know what is the workaround and what to do. So you have no intuition. Yeah, and this is a skill that needs to be developed so much more. So you have this skills matrix, and you train like this, which you will say, okay, somebody can be. The first thing is a novice. So you will you train somebody, they're a novice. You bring them, and then eventually they become an advanced beginner, then they eventually become competent depending on the training, because this is how training is designed, and then proficient, and then they become an expert. Now, between competent and proficient, you are relying on data, right? You are very data oriented people there. But to move to the expert is really the thinking is that you are supposed to become more intuitive. There's a lot to do still with that. And this is where training will come in to look at how to solve challenges. So a while back we discussed AI and the involvement of AI that will give us the data immediately. But then what we need to really develop skills on is critical problem solving. How do you solve? Not how do you plan again. because you could get AI to teach you to plan. But what to do in situations that come about that the plan does not work? So for me, self mastery is lacking, tremendously lacking. It's lacking from training, university, schooling. Now you'll see parenting, as you said, trying to get into that, but parents don't know what they don't know because we have been accustomed to the same schooling as well, right? And it's
Yeah.
the same cycle that is going on and on and on.
Yeah.
So the challenge that I have is how do you move people from experts now to mastery, right? And that is not there as yet. How do you move them from experts to master in something? Yes, you will say it's experience, and I do agree it's experience, but experience, you could get wrong experience and you don't know what to do. It comes down to the same thing again. So, an important topic, and for me, we need to teach people how to do this through critical problem solving, bringing in tacit knowledge, as we said, which is your experiences. However, your experiences need to be good to pass on to people. Because if you come by me and I didn't have that experience, I may still be talking from a textbook and everything is, well, I learned this, so I learned that like that. So, expert to mastery, to develop that, you need to understand how to solve problems, how to think outside of the box, how to, if there's a problem, how to handle it. Yeah. Thanks, Gary.
But that was a very profound share, and Shivani, you've said a whole lot there. As you were speaking, I begin to think about the concept that we have developed that we call evidence based. All right. It comes under the law of preparation. How do you prepare for life? How do you prepare for success?
Mhm.
And then we build the thesis around what we call the art and science of success, where we are asking people to now start thinking in terms of art. Because what is art? Art is going to be strategies and tools and processes and systems that have worked. What is science? Science is going to give you high reward, measurable outcome, predictable outcome with the highest degree of accuracy. And then we move into something that we call evidence based leadership. And I'm going to talk a little bit about that today. Because what evidence based leadership is saying is that you want to test your processes. You want to evaluate your outcomes. A manager is a tremendous expert in this field because you test, you evaluate, you enhance, you optimize. What if in the rollout of your academic thesis, in most cases, it would have been tested against how it's going to impact people's lives in the short and long term? And this is one of the reasons why I would advocate that academic must make sense. I see that we have hundreds of thousands, millions, and billions of people who are being shepherded along a particular path. And when we evaluate their level of success and accomplishment on the path that they're on, um, it's not where they want to be. And I say that because there's not evidence-based training today. There is compulsory training, and we have to make compulsory training and development makes a lot of sense to the individual. We don't have that. I will expand on it some more, but I want to turn to Peter and have Peter to chime in and to the talking points here today. Peter?
Yeah, Gary and Shavani, I loved what you mentioned about moving from being a novice to become a master, and so the topic of 5 habits to self mastery it's a big topic. It's a huge topic. It's one of the most important topics I think there are. Why? Because the world is in shambles. The world is falling apart, and the state of the world for what it is. Who is responsible? It is certainly not the co the life uh, beings that are inhabiting the planet. It's certainly not the trees. It's certainly not the animals. It's certainly not the other life forms. The planet is in shambles because of human beings. So the management of self becomes a big topic because there is something that is telling us that something is seriously wrong. So I remember this song from I think it is the 70s, Lou Rawls, and he sings this song. What's the matter with the world? Has the world gone mad? And then he came to the final conclusion. It says nothing is wrong with the world. It's just the people that's in it. So we tend to move to try to manage outside, and we are now looking even to Elon is now seeking to go to another planet because he thinks that we have so much mismanaged this planet that we have been given to us that we need to find something else. But the problem is that I think that if we go to our next planet, we're going to do the same thing. We're going to suck the resources. You know, and I'm just saying this because human beings tend to behave um, like
You have to have some hope, though, Peter.
we have to have.
You have to have some hope.
I'm getting this right.
Perhaps if he goes with the right manual, all right, he's gonna make it.
I'm gonna get there. But human beings tend to have. I don't want to say, but I have to say because the world is in and if we don't face a situation for what it is, then sometimes we won't backpedal because human beings behave largely like parasites. Look at what does a parasite do? It goes into a particular area, it sucks the resource out of that area, and when there's no more resource, it moves to something else. So the management of the planet is a reflection on the human person. So self-management and dealing with taking charge of self is very important if we're going to survive as a species. And we're doing right now. Even human beings, we have driven the natural resources. Many of the species of animals are no longer exist. And what we're seeing is that now we are coming to a place where even we ourselves are feeling endangered. Also, when you speak about even AI, there are persons who are feel threatened by AI. But let me move now, Gary, to what you were saying that we need to look at.
But Peter, just before you move,
Yeah,
you are saying some things that are very profound, and I want to seek your permission to chime in
go by
because you're making some very, very profound statement. I agree with you that I see the world is in chaos today, and I see that largely because people for too many years have been left in the wilderness, not being empowered to master themselves.
mm-hmm,
That power to master who you are has been stripped, has been taken away, has been trampled on. And what is being replaced with that now is more and more confusion.
mm-hmm,
And I say that against the backdrop when you, as a parent, because you're not equipped to enforce what we call parental socialization, might be in the biblical way, because you're not doing this, we have the fact that today you almost don't have a say in what is the gender of your child.
mm-hmm,
Society makes that determination and predetermination.
mm-hmm,
The child, if the child says this, the child who is a child, not an adult, their wishes has to be honored, not taken into consideration that the child's opinion is being shaped by social conditioning, by institutional socialization. Of course, not necessarily socialization that may coexist or coincide with historical biblical principles.
mm-hmm,
And there is where the world is today.
Right.
And I think it is a threat to women, and it is a threat. It's undermining men. It's also undermining what we grew up traditionally embracing as Christian ideologies. A lot of undermining is being taken place there. So I just want to chime in on that part to at least give some clarity, some interpretation of what you're saying when you say the world is in chaos.
And
The
even
people in the world is in chaos.
yeah, and I'm even not going to because I tend to try to stay away from saying using the term Christian, or even to give a definition as it has to do with even religion, because there are some things that, irrespective of your religion and your association to any kind of religious body, there are just some things that we just know. You don't have to be in association with anybody. Talking about self, the main concept of our conversation today is about self. So devoid of any other practice or devotion outside, you're talking about right here, and how do I master here, and what are the principles and the guiding factors by which we're going to guard here. There are certain things that are universally known without it being taught. There are just some things, Gary, that we just know. Nobody taught us that. As your first exposure as a child growing up, you did something wrong, and you just know that you did something wrong. Nobody, it's not even a matter of socialization. You did something, and there's this thing inside of you that told you that that which you just did was wrong. Now, that is what there are certain things that there are other things over time become socially carved into our psyche. Let us go there now.
Mm.
Because who is the you when we're trying to understand? So the first thing that we will look at, according to the five habits, and my first 5 habits, I'm just going to lay them. We're not definitely going to have the time to go over them, but it's going to start with, to make it memorable. I would say purpose, passion, pain, product, and philosophy. Right. But let me even look at the last one first in terms of philosophy, because your philosophy is from the Greek word, which is a love for wisdom, right? It's a love for wisdom. Sophia, philosophia, Sophia has to do with the love for, and then wisdom, knowledge. All right. So for us to even begin to tap into understanding or philosophy of who we are, and to define what self is, the first thing that we have to do is define, right? We first want to define what self is. And the English language is never the best language to define anything, because the English language is constantly changing, as you mentioned even a few minutes ago, because years ago, gay meant happy. But today, if you check what gay means, it has a different meaning.
A different connotation.
Right. So what you find, the English language change with time, coming out of Latin, the English language change over time. And Latin, the real language, there are two languages that really doesn't change over time, the substance, and it is the Greek language. So the Greek language can describe self as auto. So when you talk about autobiography, or you know, autonomy, it's that auto has to do with self. So it brings it right center, where individuals, we got to realize that before we do anything else, before we try anything else, let's really begin to look at management of my person. But then again, If I'm going to try to manage my person and who I am, then I got to define what self is. And when we define self is, then we got to realize that there are 9 components to the self that we're talking about. And that is a task, looking at what Shavani teaches. Shavani, sorry for butchering your name. I got to practice to repeat your name over and over. All right, but to look
Well,
at
I
what
like how you say it. That's so, you say the name nice. So, remember to that, yeah.
all right, so to make a project, so we will have to make a project of ourselves. And we've got to stop looking, for a while, we've got to stop looking outward and try to define, first of all, define who we are. So the 9 concept of self that we're going to master starts with that when you look in the mirror, what you see, you are more than what you see, right? So you're going to realize that you see your body. But then while you're seeing your body, you understand that there's a functionality of your mind. And while you are functioning, while you begin to describe or try to figure out what your mind is, then it's going to lead you to the very core of what caused the mind to function, which you're going to find the human spirit. And the mind is 6 components. So when we talk about our mind, what are we talking about? The mind, going again from Greek definition, the mind is the same word that we get psycho. So when we talk about psychology, it is psyche. The word psyche is a Greek word that means mind, soul, the same term. Mind, soul, psyche is one in the same thing. So the study of the mind, what are we studying? So there are 6 components I counted to find, what are we talking about when we're talking about the mind? And I got 6 elements. So we have our memory, we have our emotions, we have our thoughts, we have our imagination, we have our intellect, and we have our will. So those talking about self-mastery now, then we have got to manage this body. We've got to manage our memory, our emotion, our thoughts, our imagination, our intellect, and our will. So it's a vast combination of elements that has to be, uh, as Shivani says, we got to move, we got to work from being a novice, we've got to move all the way to being proficient, and we've got to move to become a master of mastering my memory, mastering my emotions, mastering my thoughts, mastering my imagination, mastering my intellect, mastering my will. And it's going to take a whole lifetime. It's going to take every day. You got to be mindful that these are the components that we am working with. But Gary, what I'm saying is that when we begin to look at life from that perspective, then we begin to realize that I'm a mess. So how am I gonna try to get into other people's business? How am I gonna try to get over on somebody else? Because the only thing that I really need to manage is this. And once I learn to manage this, then I will also respect other people's sovereignty. So the problems in our world starts right here. Because when we do understand that there is a sovereignty about who we are, and for us to coexist in the world, then I have to also respect other people's sovereignty as well. So the whole essence of fixing the world can be fixed when we do this topic that we have raised right here, when we do learn how to master self. So I think you're onto something, dear. You're onto world peace.
My. I love what you said. I mean, I think that to master the areas that you made a reference to, these are essential points to be anchored on. But again, people are on the treadmill when they start to get this type of information, and they're focused from that point is how to make ends meet, how to get food
Yeah.
on the table. So to really focus in on self mastery is a distant past. So that affects how they're going to function in the organization, because someone who has been socialized to master who they are, they're going to function far more superior than anyone else in the organization, because they're anchored in that sense of self. So I love all that of what you said. What I also want to emphasize is that the things that you're talking about, we are not just talking about it, and there's no evidence to what we are talking about. There's no data to what we are talking about. We have the thesis on the subject matter that we are talking about, and we are prepared to roll out programs on this particular platform. But just to contribute to what you're saying, and I know the public get more than 5 habits already from today's programs that they want to learn, apply, and master.
Right.
I came to discuss 5 essential habits, and I know that I will not even be able to exhaust one of those habits. All right. But let me share with them what I want to discuss today. You will not get all of it today, I can tell you that. But keep following us and subscribe to our platforms, and you will get more information. The 5 habits that I want you to take note of that you want to learn, apply, and master, in addition to what Peter would have said, because he given you his 5, you want to first of all invest in your sense of self. First habit, invest in your sense of self. Second, develop a worldview. See life beyond yourself. That's the only way you can serve. Develop a worldview. Third habit, develop global connection. You want to master yourself. If you are mastering yourself, it's not to be effective in a silo. You want to be connected to the world. The fourth habit that I want you to focus on in terms of mastering is position yourself as a global voice. All right. Position your true self, and I'm going to emphasize this, your true self as a global voice. Meaning the things that you believe in, you don't have to articulate in isolation, because we're talking here self mastery. And the good people in the world, it would be a bad thing that the good people in the world see wrong things are happening and there's just silence on it. And the last habit that I want you to focus on is see and express the importance of collective development. See and express the importance of collective development. In other words, what I'm saying, for this world to be a better place, it's not about focusing on me, myself, and I. Everybody want to be happy. Everybody want a piece of the cake and piece of the pie, and why not?
Mhm.
You don't have to be like crab in the barrel. They have enough for the world, everybody in the world, to have some joy and happiness and excitement. And part of our platform is to really ensure that we can provide a content of information that can expand people's thinking, nurture critical thinking, where we can have um, growth and gain for the collective and not just selective. Now, what I'm going to do, because I cannot get through all 5 of them, I'm going to go a little deeper into concept 1, which is invest in your sense of self. I spoke earlier on about having a strong sense of self, knowing yourself. And I say that this should begin very early in your life with parental socialization, institutional socialization that can get you on that path to self actualization. I want to talk now a little bit about a strong sense of purpose. There are too many people in the world today that are just going through life without a purpose, because, again, parental socialization did not help most of us with this. Institutional socialization did not help most of us with this. And in most cases, they are not helping you, they can't point you in the right direction. Now, let me share an experience. I could recall I was pretty young, in my teens, and I was an avid churchgoer. I have some friends that were, strong Christian family. So at church, I decided to get baptized, and my pastor came to me and he says, "Gary, your life has greater purpose now, greater meaning." And I said, "Thank you, Pastor." I said, "Pastor, but can you tell me a little bit about what my purpose is?" There's one thing being told that your life has purpose, and it's quite another to really flow in life,
Yeah.
being purpose driven. And it took me many years to figure that out. And what I want to say to everyone, when you find purpose in serving humanity, it is one of the highest levels of service. And there's purpose in serving humanity. We all may serve in different ways, but there's tremendous purpose in serving humanity. You cannot be self-servant. So there's a couple of things that I want to say here, and I always emphasize this. As a person who wants to position yourself to be purpose-driven, you need to ask yourself, do I have value that people value? And I've explained what this means many times. You need to ask yourself, am I value that people value? And can I give value that people value? Three things. Do I have value that people value? Because if you have value that people value, you're providing service. It could be real estate ownership. It could be a transportation services. It could be a lot of things. But you have value that people value, so you could serve in alignment with what you have. Are you value that people value? You could be a project management expert. Businesses need to have the skills of a project manager to think through the project and navigate that project successfully to a particular path. And this is the point that I'm making. You can serve in many different ways. So regardless of what you're doing, when you start to see what you're doing from a servitude standpoint, you're providing service to add value and fix problems and heal the world and optimize a process. You feel now that what you're doing is proper. But there's another concept that we saw called serving in alignment with your true self. But let me get past this, and I'm going to talk about that very shortly. So these are three things that you focus on having a strong purpose. You must be asking yourself, do I have value that people value? Am I value that people value? Am I giving value that people value? And can I see these as tools, processes, and systems that can be optimized? And that optimization part that I bring in at the end, I want to say this from experience I've learned, you may be given service and you may be feeling happy and excited because you're putting smiles on people's face and you're bringing the solution to the table. But if you don't have growth in the area of your service, the time will step in where you feel as though you want to grow, you want to expand, you don't want to do this any longer. And I hear Shavati speak about this ever so often. She wants to grow and expand. She don't want to keep doing one thing over and over all the time. And that's a natural human progression. That's why we call it self-actualization. You're not necessarily supposed to be stuck. You want to keep expanding and growing, and that's what purpose should look like. Purpose is you're on that journey, you're serving, but you're serving at a higher level, you're serving in a different area because self-actualization is taking place. But let me say what gets in the way of self-actualization. Self-image theory gets in the way of self-actualization. Self-image theory gets in the way of you investing in mastering your true sense of self. And what is the self-image theory? If you ever study psychology or if you ever perhaps did an in-depth studies in marketing, one of my fields, you are introduced to some element of psychology. And the self-image theory, it talks about four selves. It talks about the ideal self, the looking glass self, the self-image, and the real self. And what you have to do in conjunction with everything that Peter would have said early on, as you journey on your path to find self, you must ask yourself, are you flowing from the ideal self? The ideal self is the way you would like to be. Are you flowing from Your self-image is the way you see yourself, and I trust that you're seeing yourself in a positive way. Are you flowing from the looking glass self? The looking glass self is the way you think the public see you, and many person you project an image based on how you think the public see you, and you're never projecting your real self because you just want to fit in. You just want to be liked. Well, take it from someone who tried to be liked all of his life and get completely rejected. You just need to get comfortable being you. So that brings you now to being the real self, the real you. And again, parental socialization don't really help you to find the real you. Institutional socialization don't really help you to find the real you. This is something that you have to invest in. And I'm happy to say on our platform, we have normalized this type of conversation because we believe that self mastery plays on how far the private sector is going to go. Self mastery plays on how the leader of the home is going to be influencing the family, how they're going to push back on nonsensical nonsense. I'm coining words now. Because they are anchored in their true sense of self and they are comfortable in their space, in honesty and in truth. All right. Understanding the real self is something that can seriously uh, correct a lot of ills that is imposed on people and help to pull back the world from going over, the people in the world from going over that hill. All right. And so taking the time to really understand the self-image theory and seeing it in the context in which it should be seen, pushing aside all those things that are preventing you from flowing in a true understanding of your real self is where the game changes. So perhaps the next generation of young leaders need to be socialized in the right way by parents, the modern parents, and by institutions that have their best interests at heart. All right, so that's just a little bit more that I want to share on this point, but let me just emphasize something else quickly. So you have an understanding in terms of what it takes to be purpose driven. We are all here to serve humanity. And I can take one quote from the scripture that says this: love your neighbor like you love yourself, be your brother's keepers. I didn't say it, but that is talking about service and that is talking about purpose driven. As you do a deep dive into having a clearer understanding of what this is saying, I didn't say it. I'm only repeating it. I'm only the messenger in this particular case. The last concept that I'm going to talk about here, and before I turn to Peter, is that in your life, you want to have a strong sense of direction. The things that you believe in, the things that you're going to be purpose driven about, you want to really put yourself in that position of strength where you have this strong sense of direction. You owe it to yourself. You don't want to be like a ship on rough sea and you're going with the ebb and flow of life. You're constantly being distracted from your path because you're not anchored in your sense of direction. In one of my book, I said that be anchored in your sense of direction, even in cases where you might be wrong. But when you recognize that you're wrong, it's your position of strength. You can course correct. You can come out publicly and apologize if you were leading people. But that is a reflection of human in its true essence. You're not perfect. You may make mistakes. You may mess up, but correct it. Course correct. But you have to be strong in the things that you believe in. And in our case, when you believe in humanity, when you believe in people, and you believe that people has a higher purpose than what they are socialized to believe and live, that's something to believe in. And you can't allow, you know, sometimes the voices in your head or the voices out of your head to derail you from wanting to do good in the world and try to throw your pebble that can create that ripple effect to make this world a little better than it is in today. So I'm going to pause. I should have expanded just a little bit on the sense of direction. Um, I know we're almost at time already. Time flies so fast when you're having fun. So let me pause there. At the end, I'll talk about the sense of direction. And but let me open up now to Shivani. I always love hearing from Shivani. I think that what I love about project management can capture any situation and bring perspective to it. And not only bring perspective, but you can see, you know, the beginning of that process, the center of that process, and the end of that process, because this is the kind of clarity that project management really brings to these critical thinking, environment. And Shabani, all to you. Love to have your take.
Yeah, and totally true, Gary. Project management really helps you to connect all the dots, right? And see a systems thinking approach. And this is a skill that you must develop, right? As we keep saying, to be able to become more self mastery. So I always tell persons it's project management for non-project management professionals as well, because it really helps you, to become more mastery or to develop these skills. It's a habit that you should develop. Understanding project management for non-project management professionals.
I
So
like
you don't
that.
have to be, it's such a good thing. And I mean, I love to bring people into that space as well, not only to be trained as a project manager, but to be trained with the thinking that you could take it in any area as well. So it's really PM for non-project management professionals. So you're speaking about purpose driven, and you're speaking about happiness. You mentioned happiness. I think you and Peter, you all mentioned happiness. And I just wanted to throw off, it made me think about self mastery. And is it that, you're going to become happy when you master yourself? Are you really happy? Is that happiness for you? So I just want to throw in another point, which is enjoyment. Is happiness the same as enjoyment? So Arthur Brooks, he's a Harvard professor actually, and he did a lot of work on this, right? So I'm just touching the surface. I'm learning about it with neuroscience and all of that. But it's such an interesting thing. And when I got into the concept, I realized, oh well, they're really talking to me, right? They're really talking to me. Is happiness really enjoyment, which is all this whole talk about self mastering? Are you happy? And only when you are happy, then you would be able to see things from different perspectives, and you understand yourself more, and you could lead differently. Because I don't believe that people could lead effectively if you have not mastered yourself and you don't understand what real happiness is all about. But happiness is different for you and me. So I don't know if I should give the example after you talk about church, right? Because the example I was going to give is like, okay, so happiness,
Your
if
opinion matters.
right,
Your
no,
opinion
I
matters.
know, but you laugh at this one, right? Because it's 7 o'clock, almost 8 a.m. by our time right now, and to be talking like this. But anyway, I'll tell you, and you'll chuckle. You'll have a good chuckle about it. So,
Okay.
um, I drink gin and tonic, right? That's a drink that I drink gin and tonic, right? So, if I'm drinking gin and tonic, is that making me happy? Is that making me happy? And the answer is really no. That's not really making me happy. But what will be making me happy? Well, not happy, but what am I enjoying it? When would I really be enjoying drinking the gin and tonic? Not at 8 a.m. in the morning, Gary, don't worry. But what will really make me happy then, not happy, but enjoy, is the conversation that I'm having with an individual or group of people. So it is not really the drink that is making you happy, but it's the connection with who you are doing it with.
Yeah.
So you could be sitting down with somebody and drinking coffee in a space that you're not happy at all with, but you're enjoying the conversation. So
Mhm.
happiness and enjoyment is totally different.
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
it's got something with the neuroscience and the brain and all of that, right? So what is happiness to you? Because you buy the fancy car, and 6 months later you're really happy, right? You want something again. So was that happy, but did that really bring enjoyment? So we need to understand what brings the real enjoyment, not only happiness. So for me, self mastery is only when I get to do connection with people. That will help me to become better at every single thing. It will help me to become more happier. So when you analyze every single thing that you have achieved in your material life, is that making you happy? And the answer for me is no. But don't get me wrong, huh? I still want all the fancy things, right? But the enjoyment would be putting that in a connection. So it's really connection for me. And that is self-mastery. That's how I look at self-mastery. When I could really connect is understanding yourself. It makes yourself better, gives you different perspectives. So I'll go back to my coffee talk and not my gin and tonic talk, right? So
No,
it's
I
an interesting
yeah.
topic, and if you really need to understand this and so much more, I believe neuroscience and the brain will help us to understand this also better. So it's another concept to look as well. Yeah, thanks,
Yeah,
Gary.
great points. Neuroscience and neuroplasticity, there's a whole lot that the research is being done in this regard. And I love that you spoke on, happiness and, you know, joy and enjoyment. You're right. And that again, I could recall when we did some of our studies on self-actualization, we cover some of that because the way human nature is, the more the appetite is fed, the more the appetite wants. That is not necessarily a bad thing because that in of itself is what is driving development, is what is driving progress. All right. But could it be done in a better, safer way? So today we're going to be happy and joyful of this, but tomorrow we want that to be better and bigger and more grandized. And some people go down the wrong pathway. I don't want to go down that way, but
After
some
drinking gin
people
and tonic.
that way. It, it goes back to scripture. You want to stay the narrow way. If you go down the broad way, you're going to get, a whole lot of chaos taking place there. But Peter, let me turn to you for your closing remarks, and
Yeah.
we're going to begin to wrap up. Your thoughts, Peter.
Something that Shivani said a while ago about connecting the dots, connecting the dot. So my response will be to we got to first know how to understand. We got to understand the dots, and then we'll be able to
Mhm.
connect them. And the dots in terms of self management and self mastery is the 9 components or the 9 elements that makes us human, that makes us who we are. And if we do not pay attention to those, nothing else will make sense. If we do not master self or the 9 elements that I mentioned a while ago, if we are not connecting those dots to see how they all function, because now you're talking about really there's so much new dynamism that comes in because you're not talking about your health and this and then again we go back to why there is so much problems in the world when we can learn how to connect the dots of what self is, health then arise. Do unto others as you would have unto you. So we can have world peace right now, Gary, not tomorrow. We can have world peace right now when we do realize that I am a sovereign being. And then I can look across the screen and I see you and Shivani over there, and I can say, both of you are sovereign human beings yourself. And I do not have the right to infringe on your sovereignty. And the minute I try to infringe on your sovereignty, I'm breaking a law of life. And as we know, laws are the laws of sovereign supernatural laws are designed to protect itself. So, what I'm going to say here is focus the number. If we want to solve the problems in the world, basically, this is a topic. Master yourself. Pay more attention to mastering ourselves than to try to solve the problems over there, because all of the issues all around us, those most of the time we do not have the skill or the ability or the influence to change those things over there. But right here, the more we begin to fix what is happening right here, everything else begin to fall in place as well.
Well, Peter, you could not have said better. I do believe that when we begin to live and recognize that everyone else has a right to live, when we begin to recognize that we are sovereign people and everyone else around us are sovereign beings, and we start to honor that, all right, I think it can play a significant role in healing the world. I wish it was as easy like that. I could
Right.
recall I was talking to another colleague of mine. The way you're young, you have all of these great ideas. I still have a lot of them. So I'm still in my child's play a little bit. I'm talking to my colleague. He's a judge. He passed on now, God rest him. And I'm telling him what to do. We were together in the Lions Club. And he said, Gary, I really like the way you think. But guess what? The world is full of, and you went into it, it's not like that. It's not easy as that. Well, I continue to have that hope of a pebble. I'm going to keep dropping that pebble into the water and hope that it's going to create the ripple effect where people can wake up and say, I want to be more compassionate to myself and to others in the world. But let me say this, because, what I've also learned very often is that leadership and self mastery is not all about passivity. At times, you have to be protective and represent your ideologies because it can come under attack. And if you're not anchoring yourself, that can be derailed. All right. Because they're always, when we look at electricity, there is always a negative and positive force. And in life in itself, if we look at creation, there is a negative and positive force. So whatever you set not to do in a positive sense, you have to be mentally, emotionally, spiritually prepared for the negative forces that will come at you. If you're ill prepared for this, you're going to be derailed. But I want to come back to something that Shivani would have said, and I should have expanded on it early on. Shivani, while you were talking about s- expertise, you mentioned something that I think is very, very important, that I took some notes on it. What are those core skills, core elements to establish yourself as an expert? Is it just becoming a subject matter expert in law, a subject matter expert in economics, a subject matter expert in public relation? Is just knowing this essential, or this defines you as an expert? And as we talk, I believe that what complementary skills that can help is self knowledge, self confidence, and self application. And I bring in some of the softer term. Why? Because I see sometimes that people may have a skill. Let's take, for example, you are a doctor. You have a skill, but you are not the best person to market yourself. All right. You don't have, I see lawyers that don't have self confidence, so they cannot speak, or aspiring lawyers. So the other soft skills that we are talking about, self mastery, I think again is the game changer. The game changer. So I see as you have a skill, there are a number of soft skills that can should come along that to really help you to amplify in your true essence. and self-mastery. So regardless of what you're skilled at, an engineer, a mechanic, cultural anthropologist, self-mastery, I think, will take you much further. The last point that I want to expand on in my closing is a strong sense of direction. Now, this is self-directed. One of the things that I often talk about is that there's no fairy tale godmother and father that is coming to help you. Perhaps we are the fairy tale godmother and father to most, right? But you have to put yourself in a position of strength to self-direct. You owe it to yourself. And again, everything that I've just said, if you don't know yourself, you don't have confidence in yourself, you don't know how to apply yourself, it's very hard for you to self-direct. All right? It is the ability to self-direct that is what's going to really complete your effort to self-mastery. Well, what does self-direct looks like? I'm going to try to break it down because very often, again, when you talk something, you get so caught up in your language, you understand what you say, your community understand what you're saying, but the average person don't understand self-direct. What self-direct means? I'm going to put a face to it. Self-direct, for example, can mean building relationships with the right people. For example, you want to start a business. What are all of the moving parts that you need to scale that business up? Do you need relationships with your strategic team, great thinkers? Yes, you may need relationship with mentors and coach and sponsors and supportive community. Are you able to self-direct in this way? We call it building relationship with critical stakeholders. Now, if you cannot build critical stakeholders in alignment with the vision that you want to accomplish, you're going to undermine your path to success. So a strong sense of direction is not only knowing where you want to go, but is having the ability to self-direct. And it requires a lot of soft skills because to build relationships again, it's not as easy for everyone the way that we would like it to be, but it is an essential part of course correcting. You may have to build relationship with bankers. You may have to build relationship with project management specialists because to get to bankers, sometimes you may have to have your business plan. Project management specialist is going to do that like one, two, three because they have done it 1,000 times and they can help you with that. Self-direction, self-direct. All right. Is you seeing where you want to go, why you want to get there, and knowing exactly how to take informed action to get you there. There's much more, but I want you to just think about this. So the next thing you think about, what were you saying? A strong sense of self, a strong sense of purpose, a strong sense of direction. We're now talking about strong sense of direction. We're talking about self-direct. One of the first things I want you to pop up in your mind when you talk about self-direct is, are you building relationships with all the critical stakeholders that can make it easier for you to achieve your strategic vision? You rise and fall on leadership. You rise and fall on habits. But let me add this one. You rise and fall on relationships. You also rise and fall on relationships. And you want to self-direct to build relationships with the right people. Now, not everyone is the right people because some people are going to be listening to you and they're not going to like what you're saying because it perhaps poses a threat to their comfort zone. You need to be aware of this and put your energy where you're going to get results the fastest. So I'm just going to leave you with this for today. There's so much more for us to go into. And although I have 5 habits that I'd want to share personally, I didn't even exhaust the first one. All right. We didn't even exhaust the first one. And I'm certain with all of my colleagues, they didn't go into all 5, but you got more than 5 today because you got at least 1 from me, 2 from Shabani, 2 from Peter. You got a lot of information that can really help you on your journey, on your path to self mastery. And let me say it this way, you owe it to yourself. You're the greatest asset the world has ever known. You're the greatest asset the world will ever know. I ain't care about AI. AI ain't got no hold on you because AI was first of all created by a human being. And I'm certain that that human being that created AI, or the collective that created AI, they perhaps didn't even use 10% of their brain power. The researchers showing that the majority of us, we don't ever use 5% of our brain power. And think about it, you in your human essence, you flowing in self mastery, understanding your real self, and you're now nurtured into flowing from not just 5, but now 10 and 15% and 20% of your brain power. You're trained how to tap into your prefrontal cortex, your executive motor skills, and really push it in alignment with your true calling in ways perhaps you have never pushed it before. But this has caused you now to self actualize for many reasons. You have the right parental socialization, you have the right institutional socialization, and you're now much better placed on that pathway to self actualize. I believe in humanity, and I trust that you too believe in humanity. And with that being said, Shabani, did I give your closing remarks?
No, but I could close off. Don't worry. If you, I
Go
could
right
close off.
ahead. Go right ahead, Shabani. Have the last say.
No, no, no. I'm just thinking that self mastery, in order to totally self master, and something you said that triggered it in my mind. How do you really, if you are expert at something, does it mean that you have the best skill, right? And does it make you very good? So in project management, one of the tools and techniques is expert knowledge, right? So what is expert knowledge? Expert knowledge will be to help you to make you the best project manager. What to me is really the best project manager or anything like that is when you can do self mastery. And self mastery is understanding there are many different skills to grow your subject matter experience. So your subject matter experience can only take you so far. It will not make you go beyond or transcend. Go beyond or transcend, which is really helping you to connect all the dots. And education needs to be more in that area now, teach you a particular skill, but everything around it to help you to be the expert, the real expert, and not really the real expert, I should say, the master at it, the master of it. So that's really my closing, Gary, that self mastery, to really understand self mastery, it is taking you to go beyond and transcend already and to connect all of the dots through power skills, through power skills. Yeah.
All right, thanks for that share, Shivani. Um, can you imagine we are now getting warm up and time as exhaust? So we
Yeah.
have to do this again next week, Friday. On Fridays, we will continue to expand on these talking points, and we will also invite the general public to reach out to us in the event that you want to know more. You know, what we're talking is soft skill and hard skills, because to move your business forward, you need to have, think about it. If you have people that are anchoring their sense of self, they're going to take you further in business. All right. You're going to go forward in life. That's what we're talking about here. So I want to now thank the thousands of persons across the world who uh, have subscribed to this program over the last 2 months and change. We have over 30,000 persons who have subscribed to this platform. I want to thank you for also getting into the message and DMing and saying how much you enjoy the program. I so much appreciate that. I want to also encourage the 70 plus percent of person who have not yet subscribed to this program to do so. Subscribe to the program. So you will be the first to get these content that we are bringing to you on a regular basis. And these information I know are designed to really transform your life in business and in life. We have some inner community. When you go to my YouTube channel, if you're in the developed world like US, Canada, UK, you can join the community because there's specialized information that only goes into the community. All right. So I want to encourage you to go to my YouTube channel, and the YouTube channel is at Habits and Money. Just go to that channel, become a member, and you will be exposed to exclusive information. You can also have one-on-one with our experts. On this platform, there's so much more to come. All right, so keep following us, Shivani, Peter, our community, a collective. We will be doing some transformational topics. So I want to encourage you to keep following, keep listening, so you will be updated on all the major development that is going to be taking place. We are currently talking about a specialized business and finance association that wants to do so much for business. And I know our team will be talking to you about that some more very soon because you want to get proactive and really doing a whole lot for business. On closing note, I want to say also, if you're in the US and you need capital, any part of US, 50 states, we can help you access the capital. Debt, equity, hard money lending, creative financing, equity financing, we can help you access the capital. If you're a foreign national from Jamaica, Trinidad, Guyana, wherever, and you want to set up your business in the US, we can help you get set up with the Secretary of State. We can help you get your DUNS number. You need your DUNS number. We can help you get your SIC code. If you don't know what is your SIC code and NAICS code, you need to understand it because it's going to influence the cost that you paid for capital and influence your cost of doing business. There's so much for us to walk you through. All right. With us, it's a one stop shop, it's a comprehensive and dynamic group of academics and life skill coach that wants the best for you. So, along with all the talking and information sharing that we are doing, we have an action oriented team that are here to push you forward in business and in life. Now, I want to thank my team. It's always such a pleasure to have Shivani on board. Our calm personality. She always thinks through and make all the mental calculation before she, share her point. She's a very dynamic person in project management, great leader, serial entrepreneur. It's always a pleasure having you here to draw on that wealth of knowledge that you have. You're also a lecturer at one of the top universities in the Caribbean. So it's always a pleasure to have such wealth of knowledge on board with us. You're a part of this family now, and we're happy to have you here. Great to have Peter, theologist. And, one of the things that I wanted to study years ago is theologist. So Peter is that mindset that comes along me because I'm not the theologist. Peter is the theologist. So he helps to complete some of my thoughts when I was sharing it. Because he's an expert in that field. He's also an expert entrepreneur. He has worked with many, many businesses. And he's really, one of his key focus is to help family, to help businesses to carve out their own footprint by leaving a legacy that will live forever on planet Earth. I don't know if he's going to join with Elon Musk to also take it to where Elon Musk is going to. But that's just a little bit of a pizza. My team, I want to thank you guys for being here today. It's such a pleasure. And we have a weekend ahead of us. Do enjoy the weekend. I'll see you guys back tomorrow. Remember, tomorrow we have another program at 3 p.m. EST. And I promise you, it's going to be a very dynamic program. So, with that being said, I want to thank Shivani, thank Peter for being here today. Thanks, guys.